Hello everyone.
Today.
I
Oh my god, what is that? Oh my god! What is that?
Hadon pilih nonton bala padang. Everybody calls me Hadon or Gusti. So this is the final project of World Englishes with the topic English in Russia. Have you ever heard about English in Russia? If you haven't, let's explore this video. Okay, now we're going to talk about English in Russia. But before we explore more about English in Russia, we have to know where is Russia? Let's start with the basics. Russia is the largest country in the world, stretching across 11 time zones and covering both Europe and Asia. It has over 140 million people and a complex linguistic landscape. The official language is, of course, Russian, written in the Cyrillic script. But English is increasingly present, especially among the younger generation. According to Braj-Kahuru's three-sector model, Russia is part of the expanding circle. That means English is not a native language here, nor an official second language. Instead, it is taught and learned as a foreign language, mainly for international communication, travel, and professional purposes. In this circle, English holds prestige and practical value, but it doesn't play a central role in everyday domestic life. So, how did English find its way into Russia? The story begins in the 18th century during the reign of Peter the Great. He opened Russia to Western influence and modernization, and that included languages like English. However, during the Soviet era, English was viewed with suspicion. It was considered the language of the ideological enemy. Learning English was allowed, but discouraged, and it was taught in a very formal, grammar-heavy style. After the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, things changed dramatically. Russia opened up to the world, and English became a symbol of global connection, modernity, and success. So, how English is used in Russia today? Today, English is everywhere, but not always equally. In education, English is a mandatory subject in most schools from around grade 2 or 3. Many Russian students also attend private English classes after school. In universities, especially in major cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg, English talk programs are growing, particularly in business, science, and international relations. In media, most Russian media is in Russian. However, many Russians access global English language media through the internet, such as YouTube, Netflix, and online news sources. English pop music and Hollywood movies are also popular, often watched with subtitles. And in government, English is not used in official government work, but many diplomats and politicians are fluent, and it is essential in international diplomacy. In business, English is often required in the corporate world, especially in the multinational companies, tourism, tech, and hospitality. Many job postings include English required as a key skills. In daily life, in big cities, you can find English on menus, signs, and even metro announcements. But in smaller towns or rural areas, English is far less visible. So now, let's move to the next. It is attitudes towards English in Russia. The attitude toward English in Russia is mixed and interesting. On the one hand, English is widely seen as the language of opportunity. Learning English is associated with better jobs, international travel, access to global culture, and even higher social status. On the other hand, some people see the rise of English is a threat to Russian cultural identity. There's even a term for this: linguistic imperialism. For example, some critics dislike how many English words are creeping into the Russian language, especially in advertising and business. Still, the younger generation is embracing English. Many teens and young adults in Russia are now bilingual or at least English aware. So, this is my personal reflection about English in Russian or Russian English. What I find most fascinating about English in Russia is how it symbolizes both aspiration and identity. It's not just a tool for learning or traveling, it's also part of how many Russians are redefining their place in a global world. Yet, English hasn't taken over. Russian remains dominant and proud. English is welcome, but not at the cost of losing national identity. I think that's a beautiful balance. So, thank you everyone for joining with me in the exploration of English in Russia. I hope that you've learned something new from the video. Спасибо и увидимся. Thank you and see you.